Tonight, we can finally dispose of all of the speculation around the singer known as David and the underage girl found decomposing in the trunk of his Tesla. Up until tonight, there'd really been no definitive proof that David Anthony Burke was actually in a romantic relationship with Celeste Rivas Hernandez. But now there is. TMZ spoke with multiple friends of David who were, quote, under the impression that he and Celeste were indeed a couple, a romantic couple. David's friends believe that Celeste was 19 years old and a college student. Earlier today, I spoke with TMZ senior producer Charlie Neff, who is behind that breakthrough reporting. So, Charlie, you talked with friends of David. How did they know him, and how well did they know him?
Yeah, so the folks that I spoke to are in the LA music scene, so they know David very, very well. They didn't know Celeste as well as they knew David, but they did notice that he was bringing her along when they would go to parties in the music scene. Maybe they would have hangouts after a recording session, and they knew David to be a very gentle person, is what they told me. They also described him as very soft-spoken. Friends around him are extremely shocked that he's even remotely connected to this grisly murder of a 14-year-old girl. Obviously, he has not been named a person of interest. And from what we've seen, there is no legitimate connection connecting him to the death of this young girl. However, her remains were found in his car. And just that connection alone has really shocked a lot of people around him.
Did they get the impression that this was a romantic couple?
Yes, absolutely. So the people that I spoke to that were seeing them together out in the scene believed they were romantically involved. Now, look, they did not say anything about PDA, said that David was a very shy, quiet person, and Celeste seemed to mirror that as well. So they weren't out there making out at parties and things like that, but they did believe, because they would see them together so frequently, that these two were in a relationship.
Where did they get the idea that she was somehow a 19-year-old going to USC as a college
I know. Isn't that just so crazy? Because, you know, we think, how does a 14-year-old child present as a 19-year-old woman? And I was told that these people were just so sure that she was a college student. They were specific. They said that she attended USC from what they believed. And also she was seen at events where there's age restrictions, you know, clubs and parties and stuff like this, where she had to be at least of 18 years old to get in. And we do know from law enforcement sources that she did have several fake IDs as well. So she was able to get into places where there was age restrictions. But,
you know, Charlie, it's so sad to hear that you and I are talking about a 14-year-old girl, but I keep going back to the fact that it's possible he connected with her as early as 12, and on the far end, maybe even 11. Did these friends have a long relationship with David? Like, for instance, did they know Celeste when she was maybe 13 or, God forbid, even 12?
Yeah, so the people that I spoke with just recently got to know him. You know, he has been popular for quite some time. We know that he had been signed to a record label when he was underage. However, he has kind of blown up in the music scene the past couple years. So it would have been the past couple years that they did know her. But yeah, she would have been, what, about 12 years old during the time that she was coming around. And, you know, we don't know a whole lot about who her friends were, if she did have friends. We just know that she was coming around more in his circle. And we know she wasn't really home very often because she wasn't attending school.
Well, God, if you think about it, you know, her friends would have been elementary school friends, because it's only a couple years ago that she would have been in elementary school. And if she disappeared at 13, she would have been just into middle school. And just the whole idea that we're talking about it is so uncomfortable. But I am so curious about her story and how she presents. And as you mentioned, these friends of David said she presented very much like a 19-year-old. Did they see her driving? Did they see her driving, say, his car? Because if she's telling everyone she's a USC student, she's got to be going out of the house or leaving his presence on a regular basis.
Yeah, these people did not see her driving or ever see her driving his car or anything of the such of the matter. But, she was always with him. So, everything he did in his life, she kind of seemed to follow.
Do we know, Charlie, if these friends had any inkling that Celeste had actually moved into that mansion, that she was full on a resident of that home in the Hollywood Hills with David?
So the people that we spoke with a lot of neighbors in the area, and they don't recall seeing Celeste, or at least don't remember seeing her face. I know there are reports out there saying that she had been living with David and was at least staying there in the past couple weeks, leading up to when she was discovered.
Did these friends of David ever mention that Celeste talked about her family or her home life, or led on anything about her personal life?
Yeah, so the people that I spoke with didn't know much about her. It doesn't seem like this really came up, at least in like a social gathering or a social scene. No one really questioned much about her background. Like I mentioned, they just knew her as this college student that went to USC. It doesn't look like they really unpacked that. You kind of just take somebody at their word when they say things like that.
Did you get the impression that they thought David might actually be involved in this extraordinarily mysterious and tragic death?
So when I spoke to people around him, they were shocked that he was even remotely in, just the same sentence of this grisly, gruesome murder. Just the fact that it was his car that her remains were found in, they were shocked because, they said he appeared to be a very gentle guy, very shy guy, quiet. I also was told that his family is very conservative. They were very much involved in his life. Remember, he's just a 20-year-old, and his family was very much a part of his career from the beginning. And so for him to even be connected in any kind of way, again, he is not a person of interest, but for it just to be his car, they thought was just extremely disturbing and confusing. And just how could anybody do this, especially somebody that they would see at social scenes and things like that? They just can't believe it. It's extremely shocking for them.
Do you know if these friends that you talked to have also been interviewed by the police?
So I did speak with somebody who said that they have not personally been interviewed by police, but they believe that it's absolutely possible that other people in that group could have been interviewed by police. I'm sure police are trying to make sure that there's no stone unturned, and they are combing through everything to try to piece together this just horrific case.
If I were a betting man, Charlie, I'd say he would be going to his support system, which, as you just mentioned, he's got a supportive family. I think they're in Houston. Does anybody know if that's a possibility? Any sightings, any hint, anything about Houston?
There hasn't been any sightings. And like you mentioned, he is from Texas originally. And we do know that he has a couple homes out there as well, which it does not appear that there have been any search warrants for either one of those homes. There haven't been any sightings. So it appears he's in hiding. I'd imagine, like I mentioned, he is not a person of interest. Maybe, if he has no connection to this grisly murder whatsoever, he obviously knew who this young girl was. I imagine that would be extremely hard and painful to hear what unfolded to somebody But, and it's unclear if he's spoken to police, but hopefully they get to the bottom of it soon.
Boy, I sure hope police know where he is. If you and I don't, I sure hope they have a handle on where he is, because my feeling is now that he's lawyered up, they still have some questions for him. Charlie Neff, amazing work. Great journalism and a really good interview. Thanks so much. I appreciate this.
Thank you so much, Ashleigh, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.